We're at the zoo, and here comes our friend. Oh, look at him. Oh my goodness.
Alrighty.
Whoa.
Well, hello everybody. Again, my name is Natalie, and joining us today is Bean. He is our Linnaeus two-toed sloth. You will notice on the top he's going to have these two toes, and then on the bottom he will have those three toes, which all sloths have. But obviously, to make him the two-toed sloth, he is going to have those two toes on the top. Now, as you guys get a look at Mr. Bean, you're going to notice a lot of different fun features about him. One might be his beautiful coat that he has. You're going to see these two-tone colors that he has on his body. He will use that to actually camouflage on the bark of a tree, so to kind of use those brown coloration. But in the wild, these guys actually look very green in color, as you can see. So anyone have any guesses as to where you can find a sloth in the wild?
Where can you find a sloth in the wild?
Jeremiah said rainforest, tropical
Awesome,
jungle.
yes, correct. Yes, you will find these guys in the rainforest, which means it rains a lot. It's a very moist environment. So with it being super moist, they're going to get this green coloration. So this algae is actually going to form a home on top of their hair, while the sloth will actually use that as another form of camouflage out in the wild. So it's kind of a way that they can actually blend in with some of the leaves, as well as use that brown coloration too to blend in with the trees. So they kind of have like what's called a symbiotic relationship, which means that both parties, the algae and the sloth, are benefiting from each other. So that's a fun fact about their hair color and the reasons that they are what they are. Another fun thing about these guys, if you happen to get an up-close look at his face, you will see that he has very tiny eyes and a very big nose. Anyone have any guesses as to what his biggest kind of, I guess, sense would be? Is it going to be a sense of smell, or is it going to be his vision?
What do you guys think?
A lot of people
Smell?
are saying smell.
Good job. So yes, I kind of gave that one away a little bit, but yes, his sense of smell is actually going to be what he uses in order to find either some yummy food. So that could be anything from leaves, it could be flowers, things like that. These guys are considered to be herbivores, so they are going to eat lots of different green veggies, as well as fruits and vegetables. They're going to eat flowers. So that is going to be their main diet. So they are going to use those big noses of theirs to find where their food items are going to be out in the wild. And that eyesight that he has is actually not very good for sloths. They do not have very good eyesight. So even though we like to say he's gazing up into our eyes, he knows who we are, we just look like big blobs to him. So he has no idea what we look like. So as you can see, he is actually using that snout of his to actually smell some of the smells in this room, or even smell his diet, which happens to be right there. So he does get a nice mix of different species, or different kinds of foods. So like I said, he's going to get different kinds of greens, different fruits and veggies. And then he also is going to get a leaf eater biscuit, which has all of those vital nutrients and vitamins kind of condensed into a pellet form. So that's another thing that he's going to get throughout his diet.
Is he heavy?
Okay, I think that's actually a great segue to another question. How much do you guys think he weighs?
How much do you guys think this sloth weighs? 30?
30
140?
pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 300 pounds.
Miss Natalie. I was going to say, Miss Natalie is very strong if it's 300 pounds. Whoa.
So, okay, he's actually not that heavy at all. So his big fur makes him look actually much bigger than he actually is. So these guys range in weight from 11 pounds all the way up to 17 pounds in weight.
So like a cat.
Yes, exactly. So that's actually all that they weigh.
Wow.
So they just look very big for their bodies, but all of that is just pure fur.
Wow.
So he's much bigger than he is. And with that, actually the reason that they do range in weight from that 11 to 17 pounds is because, fun fact, these guys only go down to the rainforest floor to go to the bathroom, and they only go once a week.
What?
So this diet that he's going to eat today will not pass through his body for about a month from now.
Whoa.
Any reasons as to why you guys think that he only goes to the bathroom once a week?
Why does he only go to the bathroom once a week, guys? What do we think?
Yes.
Predators? Because he's slow?
Yes, those
Vegetable?
are two perfect answers. Yeah.
Whoa, good job, guys.
So yes, sloths are known for being very slow. They move at most maybe 6 to 8 feet per minute. So it's not very far and it's not very fast. So with that, they're obviously very slow metabolisms. So their digestive system, it moves at a very slow rate to accommodate that very slow, lazy sloth lifestyle. And then yes, the second reason is predators. They're more susceptible to possibly getting attacked by predators when they go down to the rainforest floor. So they want to do that as least as possible. So that's why they only go down once a week, because that is their most vulnerable time that they will be down there. These guys are considered arboreal, so what it means is that they are going to remain in the treetops pretty much 95% of their life.
Whoa.
So even fun fact with that too is that when they are in those trees, they actually also give birth in the trees. So a mom sloth will have a gestation period of about 12 months, maybe a little bit shorter than that. And she is also going to give birth upside down. So she will literally give birth, she will grab the baby and put the baby right on her belly, and it looks like this. It's super cute. And then that baby is going to remain on the mom's belly for up to about a year. And then after a year, that mom is actually going to give up her tree and let her baby remain on that tree. And the mom is going to go down to go find a new tree. So it's like their omen to their baby of, this is on you, this is your tree, I'm going to give you this as my last gift, and I'm going to now move on to a different tree. So for the most part, sloths will actually remain in the same tree for majority of their life as well. They have plenty of food, plenty of shelter, and again, like I said, they do not want to go down to the rainforest floor if they don't have to. The only other times that they will go down to that rainforest floor is also for mating purposes. So if they want to vocalize to another female or another male to find out where they are, that's another time that they will go down in order to find another sloth. But for the most part, these guys are going to remain solitary. They're going to remain in their tree. They're going to sleep 18 hours a day. Yes, I said it, 18 hours a day. And they're going to remain in that tree for as long as possible and just eat the fresh leaves that are right there within their grass.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Anybody have any questions?
I mentioned about predators earlier. Do you guys have any guesses as to what some of their predators might be?
What are the predators? The lion? A tiger? In the rainforest. What do you think's in the rainforest? I think I saw somebody say snake.
Snake possibly could, a very large snake with maybe a smaller sloth. That's definitely a good guess.
We have a lot of guesses.
Oh, a lot of guesses.
A lot of them are just for the zoo, not necessarily the rainforest. Let's think about the rainforest. What could be in the rainforest? Oh, he's getting sleepy, guys. We're gonna have to give him a nap in a little bit.
He's in a total sloth right now. So some of the predators that they're actually going to have are going to be like any types of like ocelots or jaguars, those kinds of cats. I know you guys kind of mentioned lions and tigers, so not necessarily those species of cats. Snakes could be a possibility as well. Maybe a very large species of snake or a smaller species of sloth, maybe like a younger sloth. And then another big predator that they look out for, especially with this camouflage that they use, is going to be this big harpy eagle.
Whoa.
This harpy eagle can get up to about 3 feet in length and weighs as much as 12 pounds. So literally, their body mass is equivalent to his body mass, if you want to put that into perspective. That's how big these harpy eagles can be. They're even bigger than a bald eagle. They're huge. So that is one of their biggest predators out in the wild. So before he starts to fall asleep, I'm going to let you guys see what he would naturally look like out in the wild. So we brought this perch over for him to be able to hang out on. Or not. You want to do it?
He's a little sleepy today, guys. It's raining here. He's thinking about it, you see? We're not going to force him.
No? Maybe?
He looks kind of cozy with Miss Natalie. What do we think?
That's so cozy. There you go.
Oh, there you go, buddy. Thanks.
So yes, she actually brought up a good point about the forcing or making animals do what, you know, they don't want to do or anything like that. So for these kinds of programs, and even for virtual programs, for encounters, we let Bean decide if he would like to participate in those kinds of encounters. So we have this crate over here that he does get in on his own, he gets out of on his own. Same thing for this perch over here. If he doesn't want to go onto that perch, we don't force him to, we don't make him do it. So everything is based on his appropriate behavior, if he would like to do it or if he would not like to do it. Another fun thing is that Bean's actually part of a training program. So basically what that means is that we're starting to work on voluntary behaviors with him. So the first things that we work on are going to be targeting. So targeting could be anything from a long stick with a little ball at the end of it. It could be a station where they have like a square color that they have to target to. And what that leads to is that that's his yes or no. If he goes to that ball, if he goes to that station, that's his way of saying, yes, I want to participate, or no, I don't want to participate. I would like to continue sleeping. So those are good things that we actually do work with him a lot on in order to get those voluntary behaviors. You're going to see these nails. These nails actually serve a great purpose for him out in the wild, as well as obviously also here. You'll see that they're shaped as half moon shapes, and that actually helps retain his hold out in the wild. So these nails do get very long. Sometimes they might get overgrown, so they are trimmed back. And those are things that we work on to voluntarily do those while he's already on his perch. So if he's comfortable with it, he's stationing somewhere, that's letting us know he's going to continue to get fed, he's okay, and we can continue to work on other behaviors so that we don't have to stress him out or take him to the vet or anything like that, because we all know that we don't really like going there. So those are things we do work on with him. And other things that we work on with him is going to be, hopefully down the road, be like voluntary blood draws, voluntary injections, maybe ultrasounds to check on our heart, to check on everything else that we need to check on. So those are all fun behaviors that we try and work on so that he can be as stress-free and never have to be restrained or anything like that. As you can see, he's obviously enjoying now being back on the perch and kind of going back to sleep, kind of. So fun thing that I will do for you guys today is I actually will give him an opportunity to eat some food for you guys to see if he's going to eat some of these things. We're going to start with the vegetables here. We'll see if he'll do it for us. He's like, really, you're going to give me veggies?
He's like, why do I have to eat on camera?
We had a question, how old is the sloth? I'm not sure if that was answered before, but.
So Bean is actually 9 years old.
9. Do we have any 9-year-olds in the camp today? You guys would be the same age. So right now he's eating
We have
a
some
green
10-year-olds,
pepper.
11-year-olds.
Oh. He's like, do I really have to eat this? I don't want it. All right, you can have a break.
Oh, are you a fruit guy?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, he likes the grapes.
So yes, when we do training with him, we always try and start with the vegetables. You always want to try and get, other options versus going straight to like the desserts, as we like to call it. But that's what he loves. He loves his grapes. He loves his apples. So we always make sure that he has a very maintained and well-balanced diet. So even though, yes, he loves these grapes, we're not going to overfeed him by giving him too many grapes versus veggie ratio. So that's why he has a nice, well-balanced diet that, yes, he has his nice dessert, but he's going to have to eventually eat his veggies as well, which he does.
Would he bite?
Would he bite?
Yeah, like if you
can bite, yes. So that's actually one of the reasons that we work a long time with him before we're actually able to hold him or to be able to use him on program. It actually takes us up to about 6 months to form that relationship with him. If you guys happen to see, you'll see these big sharp teeth that he has in there. And nobody would want to get bit by those teeth. That would not be a good time. But that's why we spend a lot of time kind of building a relationship with him, socializing with us. And honestly, what that looks like is us going to him, letting him smell us, know who it is, and that's it. That's all we do. We let him come over to us if he wants to. He can ignore us if he wants to. But it's him just building up that scent tolerance to know who we are as individuals.
Remember, guys, he can't see really well, so he uses
Yeah.
that sense of smell to figure out who's near him, which is why Miss Heather's not getting any closer, because he doesn't know me, so I don't want to scare him. So we're just going to kind of stay back a little bit further, but he's doing very, very well with us.
So
Thanks
Bean
for letting
wants
us join you.
to make sure everyone's socially distanced, huh?
I know.
Yes.
We understand, Dean.
So yeah, and those teeth of his too, like I mentioned, how slow their digestive system is they harbor a lot of bacteria in that mouth because of it. So if he were to bite or do any of those kinds of things, it definitely would require antibiotics, which is what none of us really want to have to be on if that were to happen. So that's why we build a very long-lasting relationship with him, so that he feels comfortable, we feel comfortable, and that both of us can obviously be able to coexist with one another.
Is he the only sloth you have?
He is the only sloth. So like I mentioned, these guys are pretty solitary by nature. So they want to be by themselves, especially males. Males are very dominant. They want their own tree, their own space, their own female. So if these guys were to reside together, it just would not go well. Do you guys have any other questions about him?
What do you guys think? We like the sloth?
How about, do you guys have any guesses as to how he got his name Bean?
What do we think, Emma? How do you think he got his name?
We have a couple questions coming in. What do they feed the babies? The same
What do
stuff.
they?
What do they feed the babies? Do they feed them the same stuff as the adults?
Do baby?
Oh, the babies, yes. Once they're kind of weaned off of their mother, they will start to eat the same solid things. So out in the wild, it's going to be like, again, those leaves, fruits, things like that. Same thing for even in a facility. It's going to be, once they're kind of weaned from the mom, they're going to start to eat these leafy greens or vegetables or fruit or little things like that. That would be easier for them to eat because they're going to have those big teeth pretty early on.
Somebody asks, do they get baths?
So that's what the rainforest is for. That's where they naturally are going to get those baths. Here at the zoo, we don't necessarily always give him a bath, but he does have a water bowl option that if he needs to use it for any reason, he can. But they're not going to necessarily be like those types of animals that need to bathe themselves. So as you can see, he takes pretty good care of that coat. He will use his nails to scratch or kind of get any dander off that he might want to get off. But these guys aren't going to go actively seek the water to go take a bath or anything like that.
What is their lifespan? That's a great question.
Great question. So their lifespan out in the wild is up to about 15 years. However, under human care, they can get up to about 20, 25 years of age.
Okay.
Wow.
Very cool.
And as far as his name, a lot of people guessed because Bean likes Bean.
Yeah.
Very good guesses here. So the thing that he got his name is obviously Mr. Bean is our favorite bean, but maybe for other people, chocolate beans and coffee beans might be a second or third favorite option for people. So in the rainforest, a lot of our coffee and our chocolate is actually grown in the sun, which is terrible because these guys live in trees. So we don't want their trees to be cut down for any reason. So that's why we always preach our message with conservation is to make sure that if you are going to be getting any types of coffee or chocolate, to make sure that it is a sun-grown or shade-grown option. So we actually have, there's a bird-friendly Alliance and a Rainforest Alliance logo. They can actually found in your grocery stores that will be on like particular coffee bags or even chocolate bags that let you know that it's been sustainably sourced food that you can be able to purchase. So again, we want to make sure that their homes aren't being taken down, as well as also other homes for other animals in the rainforest aren't being taken down. So that's a big message that we have him has his name Bean, so that we can let people know to, you know, get the appropriate chocolate and coffee. And to be honest, it all tastes very similar. So if you guys do like coffee, you like chocolate, definitely go to your grocery store. Make sure you look at that bag and see that it's sustainably sourced so that Bean and his friends, as well as other friends in the rainforest, can be able to continue to have their homes.
Hey,
How many?
And you guys can watch this. So these are some of the voluntary things that we do with him. So I do apologize. He was kind of giving me the cue that he's done. So that's
That's
kind
okay.
of why I went with this and kind of, you know, wanted to continue to provide his little home if he wanted to go back. So yeah, so these are things that we do with him. So he will kind of figure it out from time to time. He might get a little bit stuck. And eventually if I have to, I will help him get in if he starts to get a little bit like he's getting frustrated with it or doesn't feel like it's you know, safe, I guess, for him to do it. But yeah, so these are some of the things that we work on with him, is him letting us know when he's done or when he wants to participate in a program.
What were some of the cues that you noticed that made you know?
So he starts to go over to this area. So this is kind of this side of the tripod is usually like this area, like, okay, when I start to go down here, I'm done. Bring my cooler over. I'm gonna hop in. And then he looks at me like, you sure you got me?
Oh,
I got you, baby.
see how slow he is? I think somebody asked how fast he is. He's not fast. He's very, very
Not fast.
slow. So he's taking his time. And again, he can't see. So he's feeling his way into the cooler. And he's sniffing for me. He's like, oh, that lady has a cat. Oh.
Yeah, so this is really cool that you guys got to see this. So this is exactly the things that we'd like to work on with him. You can do it, I promise.
Good job,
We're almost
buddy.
there. Good job, trust.
Now,
Wow.
Bean's fur, is it soft or is it more like a coarse fur?
It looks very coarse, but it's actually very soft. So look how awkward it is, but he's doing it.
Good job, buddy.
Good job, bud.
And how many kids could a sloth have? Obviously, Bean's a boy, so he doesn't have kids, but how many kids could a mommy sloth have?
Just one at a time. So usually I would say probably maybe one every other year, maybe at most. Yeah, they usually will generally just have one child or one baby at a time.
Look
So
how
yeah, so
cute
that
he
is how he gets in and out. That's kind of his way of saying, yeah, I'm good, or I'm gonna go back to sleep. So yeah, so this is kind of his transport area. So I know it looks silly because it's cooler, but it does, like it said, it insulates. So it keeps things really cold, but for him, it keeps things really warm too. So this is actually always in his enclosure area, always heated to a nice 88 to 90 degrees. So it's always very warm. And we put him in this because it's what makes him comfortable. So this is kind of his, you know, safe haven. Like you always, when you have cats or dogs and you're crate training, you always want to make the crate super positive. So that's the same thing that we do with him, is we always make sure this cooler is super positive for him. So if he's upset, he seems stressed or anything, we'll put him back in here, we'll close him up, and we'll let him have that me time of being comfortable. So this is kind of his easy transport system, since he's not in this building that you guys are currently in. He's actually in a completely different building. So he gets the full VIP treatment, he gets a heated car on the way over here and on the way back. So that's kind
Wow.
of how we transport him.
All right, guys, let's say bye to Mr. Bean because he's going to go take a nap.
He's already probably gone.
Yeah, he's like, all right, guys, it's been fun. Thanks for coming out and playing, buddy.
You did so good.
And so all of those holes on the top, those are just air holes for him.
These are air
Correct.
holes,
Yep,
correct.
yep, that's what someone was asking about that. Yep, so those are all the air holes, you can say.
Those are all the air holes, yep.
Good job, whoever asked that.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
observation, guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions about Bean or sloths in general?
Zoe was asking, how tall is he?
How tall? So they generally get to, if you probably were extend them, maybe up to 4 feet in length, but usually that 3 to 4 feet is like when they're full grown.
Okay. The other question was, are they nocturnal?
Yes. Yeah, they're generally going to be a little bit more out at nighttime to be able to kind of eat safely, kind of hide from their predators a little bit more safely. But like I said, they also sleep 18 hours a day. So at some point they are pretty much going to be awake, maybe during the daytime, maybe during the nighttime, but for the most part, they're generally going to be a little bit more up and about in the nighttime. So.
All right, guys.
Thank you. And just seeing if there's any other ones. We had a question
sure.
about sloths and if they mate for life.
They generally do not made for life. The mom and the dad, for the most part, they might reintroduce to each other later on. But once, you know, kind of the birth or gestation period kind of happens, usually the male's already gone at that point.
Okay, and I know we talked a little bit about the predators earlier, but I think some people came in a little bit later. So could you just talk again about the sloth predators briefly?
So the sloth predators in the treetops, since they spend pretty much 95% of their life in the trees, it's going to be this harpy eagle, which this harpy eagle is about 3 feet in length and it gets up to about 12 pounds. So it's bigger than like a bald eagle. If you guys have ever seen a bald eagle, they're a very large bird of prey. So this is going to be probably one of their biggest predators, and they can easily pluck them literally from the treetops. But then when they go down to that rainforest floor, which again isn't too often, other species of cats might be their predators. So it could be jaguars, ocelots, possibly even big snakes, depending on the size of the sloth. But those are going to be their main predators that they'd have to look out for in the wild.
Awesome, thank you. And just one more that I saw was somebody was asking about their nails and how long they would grow.
Oh yes.
So
So
interestingly
perfect.
enough, here we go. Here's a little picture of them.
Yes. And fun fact is that their nails are not necessarily nails that you and I think of with their own fingernails. They're actually made of bone.
Whoa.
So that's how they're able to maintain that upside down lifestyle with those nails. Because that actually gives them a lot of support when they're upside down in those treetops. And they also have very highly muscular and bone structures in order to maintain that upside down lifestyle, to the point that even if a sloth were to pass away, being in upside down in the tree, you wouldn't know that it was a dead sloth for about a few days, because they can actually retain their hold for that long.
Wow. That
So
is
yes, these are
interesting.
very strong bones, but we do call them nails because it does look like nails, and they're obviously something that, you know, that's what you notice, but yeah, it's actually made out of bone. Very
Cool.
strong.
One last thing I want to show you guys, because we couldn't get close enough to see
Oh, yes.
inside Mr. Bean's mouth. So I just wanted to show you what the
And that's his actual
inside.
mouth.
Oh, so this is a photo of Mr. Bean's mouth. So as you can see, you see all those teeth in there, and his
It's a little blurry in the
tongue.
picture, but yeah, very 2 sharp canines on the top, 2 sharp canines on the bottom, and then a bunch of molars in the back, which help to kind of grind up those leafy material items that they would eat.
Yes.
But yes, very sharp mouth. That's why we spend a lot of time with him and having him smell all of our smells before we even get close to him.
Very cool. Okay, guys, so we just saw a sloth. How many people want to see a snake? Not Miss Heather, but I'm here for you guys. So tell me who wants to see this snake.
We
Get
have
excited.
people who are excited. We have lots of people who are very
I'm
excited. to see this snake.
I'm sure. Oh, there you go. There's this snake. See, guys, Miss Heather didn't even know. There's nothing to be scared of.
All right,
See?
guys. So my name is Danny, and here I have with me Captain. And Captain is a ball python. So you can find our ball pythons out in Africa, and you're going to find them in the jungles of Africa. So thinking West Africa, where there's lots of trees, kind of like when we think about Bean's habitat, those rainforest areas where there's lots of trees and green. That's where you're going to find our ball pythons here. And one easy way to tell where we can find them is based on their coloration. So the different colors of their back and their belly. So for Captain here, we look at her back. She's got lots of browns, some light tans, some black, and that's gonna help her camouflage. So just like Bean kind of turns green when he's out in the rainforest, he's not green here, but he'll kind of be green out in the rainforest with the algae. This helps Captain blend in with the ground. So if we think of all the leaves down on the floor during the fall time, she actually blends in really well with the leaves and all of the dirt on the ground. So she has some lighter parts, some darker parts, and that's gonna make her blend in on the ground when she's hanging out down there. And then she has a super special type of camouflage called counter shading. So not only does she have camouflage on the top of her body, but because our snake here, she sometimes hangs out in trees, she has a really cool coloration on her belly. So if you guys can kind of see, she has a white belly underneath. And that's gonna help her blend in when she's climbing around in the trees. It's called counter shading. So from the top, she blends in on the ground. And then from the bottom, if she was hanging out in the trees, it'd be really hard to see her because she blends in really well with the sky. So we kind of think about like our penguins and then maybe some of our other marine animals like a killer whale or a shark. But some of our land animals have it too, like our ball python here. So they blend in with the sky if they were an animal was underneath them, or they blend in kind of if something's looking down on them at the ground. So that's super important for them because our snakes, they are pretty fast sometimes, but they don't have many things that they can do to protect themselves because they don't have any legs, so they're gonna have to slither around really quickly to get away from any type of predator. What type of predators are out there in the jungles of Africa? What do we think? What might eat some of our snakes, specifically our ball pythons?
What's gonna eat a snake, guys? Eagles?
Eagles,
Birds? Tigers?
Yeah, so we are going to definitely get some of those birds of prey, just like with our sloths. So any type of eagle or hawk that lives out there in Africa is definitely going to go after these guys. And then also those bigger mammals. So our tigers, they don't live down in Africa, but those bigger mammals you would find over there, kind of like our leopards, things like that. They would be going after our snakes if they found one. That would be important for them to look for. But our snakes have lots of adaptations, which is a really big word. So an adaptation is a special feature or a special behavior that an animal does to be better equipped for their habitat or their home. So our snakes have lots of adaptations to try, and maybe it's the camouflage or to get away from all of those predators. So one of the first things that they are going to do is all that camouflage, right? We started off with that, the different colors of our snake to blend in, so that if the animal kind of sees it, it's gonna hopefully just pass right by because it doesn't notice that it's there. Now, the second thing our snake is going to do to camouflage is our snakes, they don't have any eyelids. So our snakes, they're not able to actually blink. So when they're kind of hanging out on the ground or in a tree and they're not moving, they're not going to blink at all. So that means they sleep with their eyes open. So if you come across a snake and you think it sees you, it might not see you because they do sleep with their eyes open. But that means that they're going to be completely still. So they don't have to blink and move. So they can really camouflage in there and stay kind of hidden from another animal that's kind of looking for movement in the ground, on the ground, or kind of in those trees. So those eyelids are really good to not have because they keep those open. So they do have a protective eye cap over their eye because they do have scales as a reptile. They have a protective scale, we call it an eye cap here at the zoo. And that is definitely going to help them out whenever they are trying to protect their eyes if they're hunting, moving around on the dirt. And when they shed their skin, they're gonna shed their entire spotty scales all off at the same time. So that means it's gonna start off right at their nose, and they're gonna kind of push against a rock, and it's gonna peel back from the back of their head, and it's gonna go all the way down their body, just like if you were to take a sock off. When you take a sock off, it comes off inside out. That's how our snake sheds are going to come off. So it starts right at the tip of their nose, their eye scales are gonna come off with it, and their whole skin comes off all at once. That makes it super easy for them to make sure they don't have any type of retained shed. So if everything comes off all at once, they don't have to worry about having patches on their body of old scales versus new scales. And these guys are gonna shed about as often as they grow. So it depends on our snakes how often they grow. So if it's a smaller snake or a younger snake, they're probably gonna grow a lot more. They're gonna grow a little bit faster. So they might shed maybe twice a month or once a month. That's gonna be more popular for those younger snakes. But for an older snake, they're gonna grow a little bit less, so they might not shed as often because they may not be eating as much either. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna shed maybe once a month or once every 2 months, maybe once every 6 weeks, something like that, so not as often. But our snakes, they're gonna continue to grow for their entire life. They have what we call indeterminate growth. So they're never gonna stop growing, but they slow down a lot, so they're not gonna grow as big. So Captain here is an adult snake, and is full grown. This is about as big as they'll get. Like I said, she'll continue to grow, but for the most part, this is about as big as she'll get. It's about between 3 and 5 feet.
How old is she?
Now, that's a really cool question. So Captain here is 18 years old. So she's probably older than most of our friends on the Zoom over there, which is pretty cool. So a lot of our reptiles, they live a lot longer than we think they do. So for our ball pythons, they can live to be between 30 and 40 years old. And the oldest recorded ball python was 48. That's kind of that big outlier all the way at the end, but usually they're gonna live between 30 and 40. So Captain here is actually middle of the life. So she is pretty young for us. So we're gonna have her for a long time, which is super exciting. She does love to come out for these programs. She's a pretty sweet snake in that sense. She's one of our ambassador animals. So she does programs and events. She's very used to being handled and with people. But there's lots of snakes that you might walk around and find here in Pennsylvania. And usually they're not very used to people. So maybe they won't hold you, won't let them hold you, kind of like our snake here will. So the best thing to do if you see a snake when you're kind of wandering around in the woods, if you're taking a nature hike or you see one in your backyard, is to leave it be, because there are some snakes that are venomous. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between our venomous snakes and our non-venomous snakes. Usually to do that, you have to get pretty close to the snake, and that's usually a little too close if you don't know what you're looking at. So the best thing to do is if you see something, want to identify it, take a picture with someone's phone, and then you can kind of zoom in and tell from there, from that picture. That's usually super easy to do. We don't want to kind of pick up snakes if we don't know what they are. And also our snakes, they really don't like us picking them up if they're not very used to it. And a lot of those snakes out there in Pennsylvania, they're not very used to people picking them up, so they won't be pretty fans of those guys. But there are 2 different types of snakes. So we have our venomous snakes who have venom in their fangs, and what they'll do is they'll bite into their prey and inject that venom into their prey. Now, Captain here is non-venomous, so she is not going to have any venom, so she is a constrictor. So when she grabs onto her prey, which is any type of small rodent, little mice, anything small, little mammals that run around on the ground, she's going to hold onto it and constrict it. So she doesn't use venom, she just kind of squeezes. She doesn't have any type of venom, but she does have a couple teeth inside of her mouth there, and that's going to help just kind of hold that prey in her mouth because she swallows everything whole. She has no hands, she has nothing to use a fork and knife to cut it smaller, so what she's going to have to do is swallow everything whole. So she does have some teeth kind of facing backward in her mouth, and that's going to help her out to kind of push it down into her mouth so it doesn't slip away, because she does swallow everything whole. So that's super important for her. So they have a really cool adaptation for smelling that some other reptiles have, but we think about it a lot with our snakes. And that is that tongue that keeps kind of coming in and out right there for us. So you'll see she usually smells a lot during our program. There's a lot going on in here. Bean was just out, so she's probably smelling Bean as well. So they'll use their tongue in order to try and find their food. And they have a special organ inside of their mouth called a Jacobson organ. So they take their tongue, and it's actually split into 2. So it has 2 sides to it. And what they're able to do is they can use those to figure out the direction of where that prey might be. So if they smell it on one side, they can go that way. If they smell it on the other side, they can go the other way. So that's how they can figure out where that prey might be. And they'll take their tongue, they're going to stick it back inside of their mouth against kind of the back of their jaw. And they have something called that Jacobson organ, and that's how they smell. So they don't actually use that tongue. That tongue just takes all the chemicals, all the scent inside of the air and brings it back into their mouth in order to smell all of that food.
Wow.
So that's their way of smelling. She does have 2 nostrils you guys might be able to see on her head. She does use those for breathing, but she doesn't smell using those nostrils. And on her head, she has a very special couple of holes. They're called heat pits. If you guys can see them a little bit, we'll kind of see if you guys get a closer look. And that's her extra sense. So when we think of us, we think of, we're going to use our eyes and our nose. We're going to use kind of our sense of taste, our mouth. She has an extra sense with those, we call them heat sensing pits. So if we think of sometimes those night vision goggles, they're testing to see what types of heat are being given off. So you'll see people walking around, they'll be really red because they're giving off a lot of heat. And then a tree is pretty cold because a tree isn't giving off a lot of heat. So kind of a lot of our animals are going to give off heat. So that she is able to sense, just like a heat vision goggle, all of the animals that are around on the ground, because she is a very specific type of hunter called crepuscular, which is a big word. I'll say it again. It's crepuscular, which means she comes out at dawn and dusk. So just as the sun is rising, and then also as that sun is setting. So during those kind of very hard to see hours. So she's going to use those heat sensing pits in order to try and find all of those things running around during dawn and dusk.
Wow.
Yeah. So I gave you guys a lot of information there about our snakes, and I think they are super, super cool. So what questions, let's start seeing, what questions do we have about our snake here, about Captain, or about snakes in general?
Somebody asked about, do they lay eggs?
Yes, they do lay eggs. That's perfect. So as a reptile, our snakes will definitely lay eggs. I don't know exactly how many eggs they'll lay at once for this species here, but they will lay eggs. And that means that our parents aren't really going to take care of those eggs. So just like we think of a sea turtle, they go onto the beach, they lay their eggs, and then they leave. Our snakes here, they're gonna do pretty much the same thing. So there's no kind of parental care. They don't take care of those eggs. Once they're laid, and they're gonna be underneath a rock or kind of buried in the ground. Once they're down there, they're going to kind of leave and let the babies be, and then the babies are born ready to go. So they're gonna be ready to move, ready to eat kind of food, and have all of the instincts to hunt for things like that. So knowing what to smell for.
Do snakes hear?
Do snakes hear? That's a really, really good question. So for our snakes, they do not hear. So that's really cool. They don't have any external ear holes. So they don't have any openings like we do. We have our ear hole, and then we have a little bit of flesh on the outside to capture that sound. Our snakes, they do not have anything like that. So what they're going to do is they still have some of the bones inside of their head. So they have really sensitive belly scales that kind of lead up to their ear, where their ears would be, where all those bones are. So they're going to feel vibration. So if you're walking in the woods and you're stomping pretty loud, that's going to let a snake know you're coming its way because it can feel those vibrations. So for them, if you scream when you're in the woods, that snake has no idea you're there. You have to make sure you're stomping and making those vibrations on the ground.
So don't scream, stop. Okay.
So don't scream, stop. That's going to be the most important thing. That's the best way to wake up a snake. Because like I said, they sleep with their eyes open because they don't have those eyelids. So you might not have any idea that it is sleeping. So kind of making those nice loud stomps, it can kind of feel how big you are based off of those stomps, the vibrations you're giving off. And our snakes here, they can only eat something as big as the biggest part of their body. So the biggest part of our body over here is probably right about here. So I would say maybe about this big, right? That's about the biggest part of their body. So Captain here can't eat meat. I'm a little too big for Captain. Most of our snakes can't eat humans. We are pretty big for them. So no worries there. So a snake isn't going to try and bite you and eat you because it knows it can't swallow you. And based off of how big of a vibration you give off, it can figure that out. So usually the snakes are more afraid of you than you are of them, which is a pretty thing to think about because usually we think we're more afraid of them.
Right.
But most snakes, they know you're really big and you're probably a predator that might eat them because you're so big and they're pretty small compared to us.
So Miss Heather is scared of poor Captain. Not so much anymore because she's so nice, but she's probably more scared of me. That's why her tongue keeps coming out. She's like, who is this lady?
She's smelling around, figuring out where she is.
So would she think Bean is a predator?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe is that why she is kind of exploring so much, looking for him?
Yeah, so for Bean, since they're not found in the same areas, I don't know if she would recognize the scent of Bean himself and a sloth as a predator. She might smell a mammal and know there's a mammal in here, and that might be kind of a warning sign of look around, see things. But because Bean is used in here all the time and she lives in here, she's pretty used to his scent by now. So she kind of knows, she's smelled it before, nothing bad has happened. So for her, I don't think she's really worried about Bean. It's just a very interesting smell that she sometimes gets to smell.
We're getting a lot of questions about the snake's eye color. Does the eye color change? Does it stay the same?
Yeah, so they're going to be born with the same eye color. So they don't change eyes, kind of like we think of some of us have brown eyes or blue eyes. But her eyes are really special because they actually have a different color running through them that matches her scales. So she has kind of, you can see around her eye, she has that black dot, that black line that goes through, and then the yellow line kind of above it, that tannish. And she actually, her eyes mimic that to help her blend in. So it's all about camouflage with these snakes, trying to blend into their environment.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
Very cool, guys. Any more questions?
We did have some. I'm going through them and trying to see. I know some people were asking what their strongest sense was of all the senses.
Yeah, what's their strongest sense? So I would say their strongest sense is usually their sense of smell, and then also those heat pits. So they're going to kind of use that sense of smell to try and figure out where a prey might be, and then they're going to go looking for it. And then once they find it, they can use those heat pits to try to figure out exactly where it is. But they're going to start off using that sense of smell, so their tongue is super important for them. They do see, but not as well as they can use those heat pits. So they do have eyes, they can see, but kind of like being there to use those other senses over everything else.
What is Captain's favorite food?
What is Captain's favorite food? So she eats a lot less often than you guys might think she does. So she doesn't have the same type of the way her metabolism works. It's a little bit different than ours. So she only eats once a week.
Ooh.
All right, so she doesn't eat as often as we do. She only eats once a week, and she gets 2 mice. So mice are her absolute favorite.
Okay.
But because she is something called cold-blooded or ectothermic. So cold-blooded is an animal that can't produce its own body heat. So we're always going to be between 97 and 98 degrees inside our body. That's how we take our temperature. We always know we're going to be in a range. If you're running a fever, you're a little high. So for them, because they can't control their body temperature, their temperature is going to be whatever it is outside. So if it's 90 degrees outside, their body's going to raise to 90 degrees. If it is 60 degrees outside, their body's going to be 60 degrees. So that's why our snakes, they're going to kind of go into the shade if they're a little bit warm. And sometimes you'll see them sunning on rocks or on logs because they're raising their body temperature, getting it up there. And since they don't have to control their body temperature, they don't eat as often as we do. Because we're always controlling that, I eat every 3 hours. I'm always snacking.
Yeah.
But for Captain here, she only eats once a week.
So I was just going to jump in because I know we're running short on time and kind of just rapid fire some questions if that's okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Snake eggs. Are their eggs different colors or do they all seem to stay color when they lay?
Overall, I would say most snake eggs are probably about like a whitish cream yellow color. I don't know if there's any outliers there. There's plenty of different types of snakes in the world, so they might have some that might be a different color. But for the most part, they're going to be that kind of creamy white color that we think of with an egg.
Could Captain climb trees, and if so, how?
Yeah, so she's really good at climbing trees, and that's because she is full muscle. She's all muscle and a little bit of bone in there, but she has lots of vertebrae, which is how she's able to kind of move around and wiggle a little bit, and she slithers like that S shape we think of. She has about 200 vertebrae. So we only have, I think it's something between 30 and 40 bones in our spine. Captain is a vertebrate, so she also has a spine, but she has 200 bones in there. So she's able to move and kind of wiggle around to whatever shape she needs to. So she can climb in between the bark pieces and climb straight up a tree, but she's completely full of muscle. So right now, she's really holding herself up there. I've got a little bit here. So she's kind of gripped around my arm there, and she's holding herself up. So she's pretty good at climbing trees. A snake here in the U.S. that's really good at climbing is the black rat snake. You'll see them climb up bricks. They go up against the bricks in between the brick wall, which is pretty cool.
And how is their eyesight? I know they really move around with their tongue, but is their eyesight good?
Yeah, so she can see okay, I would say. She can see shadows, kind of those big things. I don't know if she can see details. She's not really looking for details there, but she's able to see shadows, especially if there's a little bit of light, some movement, all that sort of stuff, sense the movement kind of going around. But I don't think she could see like really good detail. I don't think she'd be able to pick my face out from someone else. She would probably do that based off of smell.
And what is a snake's favorite subject in school?
What is a snake's favorite subject in school?
History.
All right, I'm headed home after that one.
Dad jokes.
All right. And speaking of history, it is history for our ball python here. So back in kind of ancient times in ancient Egypt, ball pythons are actually sometimes called royal pythons. and they were actually draped around the kings and queens as kind of jewelry. So sometimes they're called royal pythons because of that. That's actually a really cool thing. So history is their favorite subject for our ball pythons here because they were used in history as jewelry, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so one of the things to think about if you're looking at pets and thinking about getting a pet, a lot of times our reptiles, they live a lot longer than we think of, right? So Captain here, she can live to be almost 40 years old, which means that if you get her when you're young, you're gonna have her when you go to college, when you get married, when you have your first kid, and probably a little bit later on after that too. So they can live for really long. So doing your research is super important when you're getting a pet, even if it's just a dog or cat, because you're gonna research what type of dog you want, if you want a big dog, a small dog, how much they exercise. Same thing for our reptiles here. They need different types of temperatures. She has to be temperature kind of controlled. So we have a hot side and a cold side since she doesn't produce her own temperature. So in her kind of habitat where she lives, we have lots of very specific things just for her to make sure she's living a healthy life. So if you're getting a reptile, it has a lot of research involved to make sure that you are kind of giving them everything they need to survive. Because a lot of the things they need actually come from their environment. So since you have that animal as a pet, you need to kind of recreate that environment. Do you have any other questions about Captain? Anything else about our snakes? Or even if you have a last minute one about Bean, I can try and answer that one too.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up just because for time. But some people, just as a last question, people were wondering what that sound was. I think there was like a hissing sound or something.
Yeah, you
Here.
guys can go meet Douglas.
Here you go, guys. I was going to show you. I just didn't want to walk away from the snake. So this is Mr. Douglas. Do you see him?
He's gonna probably get real loud.
He was very jealous that he didn't get to come and say hi to all of us today. So, hi, Douglas. Oh, hello, Douglas. Nice to meet you. So, Mr. Douglas makes a lot of noise and wanted to just say hi to you guys. You see?
He likes attention, so we haven't given him attention to see what part of it today.
Maybe another time, buddy, okay? Well, guys, what did you think? What did you think about our day today at the Lehigh Valley Zoo? We had so much fun, and we want to thank everybody that made this possible today. And we hope to see you guys again tomorrow for our next session. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.